All right, well, welcome back to another episode of Lorcana Chats. I am Chris, aka Questing for Lore, and with me today I have a little bit different kind of content creator than the ones that I usually speak to today. Digital Ink, would you like to kind of introduce yourself a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great to be with everybody. I'm Digital Ink. Digital Inkwell, I guess, would be how you could search for me on YouTube if you're into that kind of thing. And on our channel, Chris is right. I mean, we're all about pack opening, collecting, investing, and just having fun, right? But I'm sure we'll talk about a whole bunch more of that as we get into the chat today.
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, so one of the things that I love to find out about people is kind of their origin story with Lorcana. I think when you and I had talked before, you said you had kind of gotten into some TCGs previously and then,
Yeah.
stumbled on Lorcana, or how did that all happen?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it, man. I mean, I think like most of us, and I feel like this is how you always date yourself. But like, of course, like I'm 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, right? I mean, I absolutely fallen in love with Pokemon. This is the part where you date yourself, right? So, well, which Pokemon? Is it red, blue, yellow, silver, gold? Like which, and I'm a red and blue guy, like red, blue, gold guy. So
Okay.
that
Yep.
dates me for everyone out there. That's okay though. I'm proud. I wear it proud. But no, I mean, it all started from there. I mean, watching the anime and playing Red and Blue, opening packs with my cousin, who is kind of like my older brother. But um, but no, I mean, we would go to I forget what the restaurant was. We'd go to a restaurant and there was like this little, it wasn't even an LGS. It was almost like a convenience store after, and they always had packs, and we'd go get packs. We'd go home, we'd play them.
Nice.
Did that forever, and also Yu-Gi-Oh too. I mean, I watched it all. I mean, Duel Monsters, GX, 5Ds. Didn't watch Zexel until I came back. Because yes, I'm just like most others. We took a pause in there, and then we came back after
Yeah.
COVID and stuff like that. But no, and then that entered into Lorcana, where my entry into Lorcana was like, I mean, I think it's like anything else nowadays, where like you go out and you're surfing for content, and you're just looking around at things, and I see Disney TC, like new Disney TCG. I'm like, what is this? And immediately I'm thinking, because there are a lot of these out there, and I understand that, but I'm thinking to myself like, oh, well, like fingers crossed, this is like the real deal, because like, wouldn't that be two wonderful things like coming together, like getting married?
Hmm.
But I was like, well, maybe the cards are like screenshots of like wonderful
Yeah.
movies from the past and classic 1990s like Lion King, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, like all that stuff. And then I see the actual like one of one artworks, and I'm like, uh-oh, this could be really cool.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then of course, now I'm starting to like, now I'm propped up. Like I go to my computer and I'm like, okay, well, it's time to start doing research here because this could be the real deal. And so I start looking at it, and at the moment that I knew I was going to be all in with this, and this was going to be my new thing, was when I saw those enchanted rares, Chris.
Yep. Yep.
Because and ironically, it's not that at the time I don't know that I'm gonna know that it's the ultimate chase card in the set, but I did the first enchanted that I did stumble across was Elsa, and I'm like, well, that's a beautiful artwork first and
Oh
foremost.
yeah.
But then I start looking at the legendary of Elsa, and I'm kind of, Spirit of Winter, and I'm kind of like, wait a second, that's the same card, the same text,
Hmm.
same everything. So and then of course my mind starts racing. I start thinking, so if I'm a game player and I drop the legendary Elsa versus the enchanted Elsa, the board state wouldn't be any different, right? It would be the exact same thing. So the way my mind, I kind of start like going down the path of they might just be thinking about the collector with their first ever set ever. Now I think Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, not late 90s, early 2000s. I don't really think they knew what they had with,
Hmm.
with that back then, right? I mean, obviously the Hollow Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur are looked at as like the big gets, but like you can get those in every other box or something like that. Whereas, like Elsa and other enchantments, you're gonna have to pull quite a few boxes to find what you're looking for, especially since there's, well, technically in the first chapter 12. But no, Chris, when I saw those enchanted rares, I was like, this could be special. Because if they
Yep.
have the foresight to think of the collector so early on, maybe years from now it could turn into something even more special. Because first and foremost, it's got to be about the game player. I mean, it has to be, and I've always said
Oh
that to
yeah.
people on my channel. I've always said, look, without the game player, there's no game, there's no hobby, there's no collector, there's no me. There's no me doing what I love to do, right? So like first and foremost, it's all about the adoption from the game player, right? But I did think like, hey, down the line, like maybe this could be something. So that's kind of in my mind how it all jumbled together. But like from
Hmm.
that moment to you and I sitting here now, that feeling has just gotten amplified.
Yeah, definitely. And they created even from early on, like the D100 set, that was like one of the
Right.
very first things. And it was specifically for collecting, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
cards were basically the same thing, like you were saying, as the Enchanteds, where it was the same card. It's just, it's a very, very special edition. You couldn't even pull those in packs. It was literally that box set, and that was it. Now, there
A
was
hundred
tons of
percent.
it around, but so it's not exactly
But
rare, but you
but
know,
to your point, that's a great call out though. Just like the D100 set, right? Where with those alt arts, like with the signature, like you have the D23 prior to. I mean, like I came in and I didn't
mhm.
even know those D23s exist, like the first iteration, not the new ones that
Right.
just got released with the latest D23X. But like, I mean, when I it took me probably maybe like a week of like okay, like after I got done looking for at stuff and I'm like, okay, this is really cool. I stumble on those cards and I'm like, what is that? Like, what is going on here? Like, what are those? Like, I
Yep.
want
Yep.
those. And what's so funny as a collector, I'm like, for so many times I'm thinking to myself like, oh my gosh, like this is great, like I could get these, like maybe I could, like these are the first ever cards, they have first edition stamps on them, maybe I can afford them. Nope, already priced out. And I'm like, oh my
Yep.
gosh.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the line that we play with Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, where I think it's such a special time for a lot of us who are, and of course, like either collectors like myself or like game players who also do enjoy collecting things on the side as well. It's a special time because I mean, obviously, we don't. Not a lot of people have the foresight to think about it in this way, like right now. But what we're opening right now with like Rise of the Floodborn and Inklands and Ursula and Shimmering Sky, like these are going to be the sets that years from now people are like, wait, you have a Shimmering Skies booster box? Like
Hmm.
nobody's got, like that's a really expensive, like it's kind of a special thing. We kind of get to like come along the journey as opposed to like as I got reintroduced, to wanting to do like Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon and things like that. Obviously I had so much fun with it. I still do, but there is something about you that's kind of like, man, I wish I could open base set right now, or I wish I could open
Yeah.
LOB, first edition LOB. And that's just, for most of us, that's just a fantasy, right? But like here, you kind of get to live that fantasy, which is
Hmm.
kind of cool.
Yep. Yeah. Now that we're only, I guess, a little over a year in, it's
Yeah.
still early sets and everything. And,
Oh yeah.
honestly, it is absolutely amazing to me. And I know, I mean, this is like years worth of work culminating in, even just these first few sets. Cause I think right
Yeah.
now they're already on like planning for set 10 or something. Um,
Unbelievable.
and so it's just crazy to see all this. And, like you're saying, with the original art and with the actual mechanics really well fleshed out and everything. I feel like it's got a really good balance so far between, somebody who's just, more on the collector side, more looking at it as they have these really amazing, unique cards that are highly collectible. Some of them very, very hard to find, you know, and then balance it with actual good gameplay. So it's not like, oh, we made a very pretty game, but it's not any fun to play. So yeah, speaking of which, I'm curious, how much do you actually play, or do you play very much?
Yeah, I obviously I get asked this so many times. Like I with my community, I love my community so much as like as they, and obviously it's ours, but like the ones who find it worth their time to click and watch on the videos, like it's a cool thing, and that's why I started. I wanted to just find a community of people that I could just interact with. And I say that on my channel all the time. I'm like, that's why I'm doing this. Like, I just want, like, whether it's here or Discord or whatever, I just want to be able to interact with them. I get that question more than any question. And it makes sense because we're in an era right now where we are still in that early adoption and expansion of the game. And like obviously you and I and others on the ground floor, we understand that like it's working. Like the game is so much fun to play, and like
Mhm.
obviously it's gonna, like I don't know. I think anybody who's in it feels like it's gonna work, right? But I get asked that question all the time, and I say, honestly, I play. I would say I probably play once every few weeks, and then when I play, whether it's like with my wife or a few other people, we'll play like 10 games, right? So like I'll play in a big
Right.
bunch and then it
Right.
but I think it's kind of like any other game. Like I think when people like have me compare it to something, I'll always say like I grew up playing chess. I was in chess club. I was a chess nerd. Like I love playing chess. I played chess, I played checkers. I could technically play Yu-Gi-Oh, even though it's like so impossible to play that game nowadays. Like, but what if it's like Edison format? Like I could play that. I could play, whatever. I could play Goat format, but and I can play Lorcana. And like, and it's kind of interesting comparing Lorcana to like a Yu-Gi-Oh, where you're kind of like,
Mhm.
okay, clearly this is a fun game to play. Looking at Lorcana in that same like in a vacuum, it's kind of like this is a really fun game, man. And not only that, like, but like Ryan Miller and the others who like decided to like really build this game, like there's some video that I'm sure everybody saw on YouTube at this point where like he's playing with somebody and explaining to him how to play. They use the first chapter starter decks to play.
Mhm.
This is early days of adoption, but he's explaining like all of these different character traits, mechanics, songs, like names of certain things. It's going to be on brand with, like with the real, like with the actual movies and their actual shows. Like Peter
Right.
Pan
Right.
has evasive. Of course, Peter Pan has evasive. Like, how could he
Right.
not? Right? Like, he could never be caught. Right? Like, it's all like they have done such a thoughtful job with it that it's because it's. I mean, it's beyond just the names of it, like like Mufasa, like ruler of Pride Rock, and things like that. I mean, like it's really the actions, the items, like they have done a wonderful job laying out the base of it, and it almost makes you feel like it's inevitable that they're just going to keep building on that, and it's going to be amazing. So I always tell people from a game playing standpoint, if you're asking yourself like, I wonder if I click on his channel if I'm going to get the recap of like DLC Vegas and how Emerald Steel topped and it dominated and this and that. You're not going to get that on my channel. But what you will get on the channel is that might be why Diablo is shooting up in price. That might be why, why Sad Beast went a little bit lower and is going a little bit higher. Why some meta relevant cards are going up in price. Like, so it's funny when I think about the game player and I think about that side of it, that's extremely important to me. There's multiple game players, deck builders that I'm following because in order for me to feel like I can offer what I want to offer to the community or the people who choose to click on to my videos, I have to understand the other side of it because it directly affects me and what I'm doing, right? Like a perfect example might be like, if you have say like we'll take Diablo again, Diablo and Aurora. I mean, obviously, I'm checking card prices all the time with the side of things that I'm in, but like, I
Right.
think Diablo is more expensive than Aurora right now from an enchanted standpoint. But like 5 years from now, is that going to be the case? Or like, if in a vacuum, let's say tomorrow was the time that a ban list came out. It probably won't, but let's just
Yeah.
say. And
No. Yeah.
Diablo and
Hopefully
Diablo
not.
is
Not yet.
hopefully not. Yeah, I know. That's like probably the worst thing. I did not put that. I don't. There's no wood around me, but like I guess I just knocked on wood. But if that happened, or if that were to happen, what's it going to do to that card
Hmm.
versus what's it going to do to Aurora, who's a first chapter Disney princess? And see, like that, like, see, probably not as much of an effect. And so, like, in order for me to feel like I can give what I want to give to the community, the game player, that always takes precedent. It has to
Yeah. Yeah.
because without that, like the hobby, like there won't be one. Like there just won't, right?
Yeah.
And now you look at like Pokemon, they just had like Worlds in Hawaii or whatever, and you look at like they're doing Worlds for gameplay, they're doing Worlds for Pokemon Go. There's collectors
Hmm.
all over the place doing content. Like obviously that to me would be a dream where like could we all just come together and like I'll go watch some of the best deck builders and game players in the world go do their thing. And while I'm there, maybe I'll get some content out of it and we'll all come together. Like that'd be pretty cool. But hey,
Yep.
we can
Yeah.
dream.
And it's really interesting to me. So a little background. I played Magic way back in the day, a little bit, not like,
Yeah.
heavily got into the community or anything like OG Magic, dating myself. But Lorcana is like the first real TCG that I've really dove into and really gotten involved and everything. Um, and so when I first started out, it was really sort of confusing to me to look at a card and I'm like, okay, I kind of get, like I'm looking at two different cards and they have very similar stats. and they're very similar abilities, like maybe one has rush and one has reckless or something.
Yep. Yep.
But to look at them and then you go on to a site like Dreamborn or TCG Player, and the value of them is wildly different. It's, and
Massive
when I
gap.
first started, yeah, I was like, why? Why? I don't understand. Why is that the case? And I think you really touched on it, is a lot of it has to do with the gameplay side, right?
Yeah.
You get
Oh yeah.
like the bounce package that's been super popular with Madam Mim and the goats and
Yep.
all that. I mean, that's held its value pretty well because it's so popular on the gameplay side. There's been a little bit of variance here and there, but I mean, you still have the same kind of things playing in Amethyst, and in still a lot of the decks. And it's really interesting to me to see just for normal cards, not even for enchanteds or anything else, how much that plays into it. You get suddenly everybody says Bucky and Diablo, that's where it is, where you need to
Where it's
be.
at.
And then they just skyrocket up within like a day or two. Um, and so you really wonder, is it going to come to a day where, okay, they nerfed Bucky, yeah, it
Yep.
hurt Diablo. Yeah, it hurt some of the other Emerald stuff. But it seems overall it didn't change that much. Something else came in and, Diablo's kind of fading a little bit, but now there's other,
Mm-hmm.
Emerald cards that are coming up. So it's crazy to me. And I can definitely understand, you trying to kind of keep up with that because, I imagine, you'd like to be kind of ahead of the curve, if possible, get in early before things start really shooting up. Like I think everybody does, honestly. Um,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, I know a lot of people do play it for just the passion of the game and everything, but there's still also a lot of people that are, they're really interested in it for, the value of the cards,
Sure.
and competing for, like I know there's a couple of people that have won the golden Mickeys in the DLCs, and they've actually already
Right.
sold them, right? That
Yep.
they wanted the Mickeys so that they could, sell it and go to another DLC or, something like that. So it's just kind of it's an interesting mental shift between the two kinds of areas. And like you said, I don't think
Everyone
they're that different. I think it's just, two sides of the same coin, really.
100%. Everyone is on their own individual journey. And in a lot of ways, we're very similar, but you can start cutting things in half very quickly, especially in this world of gameplay mixed with collecting, mixed with content creation. To your point, you mentioned Mickey, the golden Mickey, the serialized, where some might win that and say, this is the holy grail. I will never sell this in my entire life. I'm going to give this
Yep.
to my kids, and then they're going to give it to their kids, etc. And then you have others who are so deep into the gameplay that they're like, this is so great. I can now sell this to go to the next competition, go to the next DLC, build multiple decks, bling out my deck, use enchantments if I want to. Because I mean, you could
Yep.
build anything you want twice, three, four, or five times over with this card and how much this card is going for right now in the secondary market. So thinking of it like that, there's just so many different paths that you can go down where it's like we're in an era with just hobbies in general and content within those hobbies of like, well, there's Lorcana, cut it in half. There's the game player and the collector, cut that in half. The game players also collect, cut that in half. Maybe we're blogging, cut
Yeah.
that in half. Maybe we like there cut that in half. Maybe we do fireside chats, like what we're doing. Like there is
Hmm.
so everyone just has such a different way of wanting to experience the nostalgia these days. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what is really so special about these. I mean, we've talked about Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, and Lorcana so far to this point, and each and every one of those. I mean, I'm sure everyone who is a part of the hobby thinks back to a time, a simpler time, where they obviously like you're probably very happy in your life right now, but like back to a time where you were so happy and life was so simple and that's all you had to care about, and it's a special feeling, it's a special emotion, and
Hmm.
that emotion can drive you so many different ways. And that's like with our channel, I say all the time, I'm like, look, this we're sometimes subscribers or commenters will say like, why don't you go, like, why don't you go play this DLC, that DLC, something like that. And I'd be like, honestly, what I'd like to do is honestly just show up and hang out with some of y'all. That would be
Yeah.
awesome. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, what makes me really happy is just getting to collect it and have fun. It would kind of be like, so we talked about, you and I talked about, like, I forget if we're recording or not, but the poker chips behind me are golf
Mhm.
chips because I've golfed all over the world and stuff like that. And so these are, again, I like collecting a lot of different things. Lorcana is definitely like number one. These are just kind of an aside, but that would be like someone saying, like, you should really try, like if someone loves to do like mini golf or something like that, someone says, well, you should play real golf. And it's like, well, I don't know. Like I have fun doing mini golf, man. Like it's
Yeah.
fun. And
Yeah.
and so like for me, it's kind of just like I can tell you right now, I am living my best life, hanging out with the fam, opening packs. When we pull something, I mean, everyone is so excited and just understanding like what they mean, having appreciation for the cards as well. I think that's
Mhm.
something that we can also pass down to the next generation where, like, again, I mentioned my cousin, his kids that, he's teaching them where it's like, okay, well, this one is, that you pull an enchanted or something. Okay, we're going to take good care of this. This isn't just going to be one that we're going to
Mhm.
throw all over the house and stuff. Just little things to like teach just about good habits or I don't know. Like there's just so much that you can take from it where it's like there's so much you can take from I don't know, from any hobby in general, I guess.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. And and it also helps that the art on the cards is just beautiful. It's literally
Gorgeous.
it's not like screen grabs from movies and stuff. That would be kind of like, okay. You have different things like, I was opening some packs earlier and you get stuff like the
Let me see
Donald
it. Let
Duck.
me see it. Oh, the Donald.
Oh,
Like, oh, good. I'm glad you pulled
oh,
that.
it's not
I'm glad you pulled that
focusing.
up. That is my wife's favorite card from Shimmering Skies. Her
Oh,
favorite one.
really? It's
She
a great
she
one.
pulled it.
Yeah.
She pulled that card, and so we both said, because I mean, as you know, like we open quite a, more we open more packs than we probably would like to admit, both on camera and off camera.
Mhm.
We started opening Shimmering Skies, and I like before we started, I'm like, before we start, we're gonna open a ton of packs. It was like a Saturday afternoon or something. I'm like, we're gonna go for it. We're gonna have so much fun. And I said, if we pull an enchanted, you could have anyone. Which one do you want? And she said that one. And obviously, I
Yeah.
said the Mufasa. But like, truthfully, it wasn't just from a price standpoint. I didn't know it was going to turn into what it turned into. But it was
Yeah.
really just,
Yeah.
I think the red and the blue pops really well. But
Right.
like,
Yep.
but we get that enchanted. We slow rolled it, and it was that card. She was so excited, and that's the kind of stuff where you can't you just can't. I don't know, you can't replicate those things, man. Like
Yeah.
you can't replicate those memories. Like that is at the heart of it, what's so special about it, for sure.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I tell so my older son is not like super interested in the game. He'll, crack a few packs whenever I get a new box or
Yeah.
something. But my younger son, he actually played with me for a little bit. He went to a set I forget if it was league or just or set championships. I think it was just
It's a
league.
championship. Yeah.
Um, but he's not super interested in it, but he's fun, he has fun with it every once in a while. But man, when those
Yeah.
boxes come, um, you know, it's just an absolute mess on his side of the table, of course. But I've told him, and it helps, and this is probably very dangerous for me. I've told him each time if he pulls an enchanted, he can either, hold on to it or he can sell it. And I will more than happily sell it for
Oh,
him. And I know it's
yep.
dangerous, but
Dad
there's
will
just
take
something
care of it. Don't you worry.
there's something fun about it, to be, you flip through the cards and whether you do the top pull or the side pull,
Yep.
um,
Yep. The,
you get to that second to last card and you always kind of hesitate a little bit and then you pull it up
a
and
little bit.
sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't,
and and
but
the,
it's
and the, and
always
that anticipation, right? The
yeah,
anticipation when
yeah.
you see that you have one. I think I'm going to tell you what I actually think, that is the most fun part of it. You slow roll it and you see
Hmm.
that enchanted logo, and for the next 30 seconds or so before you pull that card, the possibilities are endless. It could be anything. All of a sudden your mind starts
Yep.
racing. Is it going to be this? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be this? You've
Yep.
already won. Doesn't matter what it is. Like you are so excited, and it is going to be a great memory no matter what. Let's just live in
Hmm.
this moment. Let's extend and soak this moment up before we actually pull it, and there's just nothing like it.
Yep. Yep. Definitely. That little dopamine hit in the back of your mind.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do want to get started talking about your content creation stuff. I mean, we kind of touched on it a little
Sure.
bit. You were talking about the
Yeah.
channel, talking about kind of the focus of it. Looks like you kind of kicked off about 8 or 9 months ago. Is that fair?
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. I think I if you say it, I believe it. I think we I think I logged in and gave myself a name, and then maybe a month later I was like, okay, we're gonna start. I'm gonna take that and
Hmm.
as a fellow creator, like you understand, like I'm gonna take that leap, like because that's sometimes the hardest part is to start. Like and it's not
Yep.
so many things are so corny with content creation where it's like, well, you know, just go for it and start. But it's true. Like, I mean, it really is like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes that leap is yeah, I'd say it's about call it 8 months. That sounds right.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think that was about the range of the videos that I saw on there.
Yeah,
I didn't know. Sometimes some people, when they first start out, they make a couple of videos and then it doesn't feel quite right. And then they kind of shift over to some kind of other format. And so, I just wanted to know if there
absolutely.
was anything like that in your initial days, but sounds like you just kind of set your path and started creating.
You know, it's interesting. I forget if it was a TED Talk or probably something on YouTube. I forget, but you know, because of course I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna start. Like I told
Hmm.
my wife, I'm like I'm actually very serious. Like I want to try. I want to give this a shot and see how it goes. And I heard a really interesting thing that I really do think is kind of it kind of matches with at least how I felt. I feel like someone said that there's two types of creators. There's hunters and there's farmers. A hunter is someone who is like, we're just gonna throw the phone on and like start recording. I'm gonna start recording myself and let's throw it up on YouTube and we're just gonna keep doing it forever and ever and ever. Whatever. Like let's just go
Hmm.
for it. And there's something like super, super empowering about that. And like if that is you, I commend you because then there is the other side.
Yep.
And I like I wish I could be that first one. The second one, the way it was described to me is a farmer. The farmer is okay. I want to start, but before I start, I want to get the right camera. I want to get the right lighting. I want my first
Hmm.
5 episodes scripted. So because to me, I'm so like I'm thinking like I don't want to start. Like I love it so much. Like or at least I want to try to like really be in it, right? Like I mean, it's a hobby, right? Like you want to try to. I mean, you're not required to do it. So like if you're doing it, you must really want to do it. So like
Right.
I don't want it to fade. So let's like get in a groove, right? And so I was a farmer, right? But what's funny is like I told myself like, okay, this looks good. I'm feeling really good about it. And just like probably every other creator, I go look at my videos from back in the day and I'm like, oh, that just like you cringe, right? Like
Yep,
and you
yep.
know
I
what?
think
At
everybody's
that
that
time
way.
I was
Yep.
like, everyone. And you know what's so funny is now I have the perspective of like and people are I'll tell you what, and obviously it's a whole other thing, but like the, again, like I know like there it's a basket of corny lines, but like the community of people who has reached out to me, I was probably thinking it was going to be a little bit more diverse than what it's been. Everyone's been super nice. Like I told myself, I'm like, okay, like you're gonna get some bad comments. It's gonna happen. Like you just gotta
Mm-hmm.
try to have thick skin and everybody and you know, of course, like you might get that every once in a while. I'm sure everyone does is, you know, take enough time to do something and it's gonna happen. But
Yeah.
everyone has been so unbelievably cool and unbelievably supportive and nice. And so many times I'll get people who say like, "Oh gosh, your setup looks so cool. It looks so clean." I'm like, "Thanks, man. I worked really hard on it." Like,
Yeah, yeah.
but then I'm sure a year from now or 2 years from now, I'll look at the videos now and I'll be like, "Ugh, I can't believe I did that." You know, like you're
Yeah,
always
yeah.
evolving, growing, right? But no, I very much you know I told myself that if we're gonna start this journey, like if I'm gonna do it, once I take that leap, it's not enough for me to take the leap. I need to make sure that there's, you know, that we can get over that curve. Because a lot of times with content creation, at least what I'm finding, and also like, you know, with just I think a lot of things in general, things that aren't required, right? It's like, oh well, I'll go do it later. Like I got this, I gotta do, I got this, I gotta do.
Hmm.
If you're gonna, you know, if you're gonna really go for it, then you know it's nice to stick with it. And that's not for everybody. I'm just describing my process. But I know me, and I know like if I don't stick to a schedule, it might fade, and that's the last thing I
Yep.
want. I want to try this,
Yep.
right? So no, and then and from that moment to now, it's been great. And what's nice too is I think the more you do it, the more you get used to that schedule. Like the more
Yep.
you expand, you learn like, okay, like I need to fit this and this in along with my, my normal life, which, that's you kind of learn and grow,
Yep. Yep. Definitely. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in the saying you have time for what you make time for. That
That's right.
really like, I mean, if you really want to give it your all, and I think, a lot of people like from the outside, it looks like such a, an easy thing, right? They're just watching the video, they're watching the end product, and they're like, I could do that. And honestly, you probably could, most people probably could.
The hunter, the one that could
Yeah,
just throw the
yeah,
phone up and just like, yeah, and that's why I envy you, because like, I envy that person because like you could if you wanted to, but
yep,
yeah,
yep.
to your point, so much more.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Well, and then you have also all the other stuff that goes along with it. It's not just I'm just going to post videos and it'll magically, catch on. There's other considerations. There's any kind of marketing, there's any kind of branding, there's all sorts of other things that can potentially go along with it. And, some of that evolves over time. You don't have to be a
Yeah.
marketing expert to be a content creator, not by any means, but, when you have like good, like authentic content like yours, you're just there, you're talking about what you love, you can see the passion behind it. I think that kind of stuff really speaks a lot, like non-verbally to people when they're watching the videos and they're like, this guy is really passionate about this. One, I really enjoy the content. And two, this is something I'm passionate about too, so they identify more with that. And so they keep coming back. And that's what you
I
hope for,
appreciate you, man.
right? Yeah.
It is, and I appreciate you saying that because that's the one thing I told myself when I started. I was like, and I actually took a different slant with it, right? Like obviously, like it's to your point, just to start recording and going, like truly, it could work. It very well could, but there, like you said, there's so much more that goes into it, and that so much of it is the specific, I guess, for lack of a better term, the vibe that you put out there. Like
Hmm.
if you're, like your personality, like what is kind of the feeling of this channel to get someone to feel like they want to keep clicking on it. And the first thing I told myself before I started, I was like, just be yourself. And that might
Yep.
sound again, might sound corny, but the reason I said it to myself was, let's just say this works. Let's say this works. Let's say I start this channel and like it starts working and it's growing and it's doing so great. If you try to have a different personality, or if you try to be someone that you're not, are you going to enjoy doing that 1 year, 3 year, 5 years from
Hmm.
now? And the channel's growing and you're having success, but you still have to be something maybe that you're not, and be something like that's going to feel awkward. If you are, if you're yourself, and this is again something that like at least everyone that I'm subscribed to within the community, like they're just being themselves. Like they just,
Yep.
you can just tell the authenticity comes through. And it's like those are the people that like what your definition of success, everyone's is different. I'm sure there's people out there with 5,000 subs, 10,000 subs who are like, this, I have made it, this is amazing, I'm doing what I'm loving it. And I'm sure there's people out there with 100,000 subs who are like, I don't have enough subs, or stuff like that. And
Yeah.
that's okay. But no matter what you do, make sure that you are enjoying it, because
Hmm.
it's meant to be fun. It's your hobby. Like it's meant to be fun.
Oh yeah.
And the way you're probably gonna enjoy it is just by being yourself. Like I think I come across as like a very, like the two halves of me are very analytical, statistical, and also very like goofy. Like I think those are kind of the two. Like I like to goof around, joke around, and then also like the nerdy side of me comes out as well. And it's like, you know what? I'm gonna throw that in front of the camera, and we'll see what happens. Like hopefully it resonates with some people. And the
Hmm.
people who I do talk to, I think that there's a lot of those people out there who are like, hey man, like I'm living my life too, but I love opening packs and just enjoying it
Yeah.
and having some fun. And it's like that's been the coolest thing, where I'm like, you know what? I'm not alone. Your people are out there, which is really cool.
Yeah, definitely. And so you do pack ripping videos, you do like some kind of pseudo investment advice, you do a little bit of market watch kind of stuff. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that you've covered
Yeah.
before.
No, I think you nailed it. I mean, I think
Okay.
first and foremost, I think with the pack opening, I think what's really the vibe that I've tried to cultivate there is like if you are either a kid or an adult or whoever who's enjoying yourself like doing this, like I like to I know the creators who I've watched who've done this. I know the things that I like. I'll be like, I want to just sit back, watch someone open, be themselves. I want to feel like I'm in the room with them, at
Hmm.
the desk with them, next to their playmat with them, watching them do their thing. And you know what? One of two things is going to happen. Either they're going to pull something massive and we are all going to be like super psyched together. We're all going to be super excited. Or they're going to rip 50 packs, pull nothing, and it's okay because it was not they were your packs, not mine. Like it's like that was
Yeah.
a lot of money down the
Yeah.
drain, but it's
Yeah.
yours. Not and you know what? And that's okay because no matter what, like we had fun doing it. And I always tell people like I get people who will talk to me who will say like I opened my first trove the other day. I was so excited, right? And then there's others who are like, I opened 50 troves the other day. It was amazing. Like again, similar to success, everyone's definition of like truly just loving it, having fun and enjoying it, whatever the timing is or the amount or whatever it might be, like everyone is different, right? You just want to, so
Hmm.
all I'm trying to do is just make sure that if you come into this space, just know like we're just going to hang out and have a good time. But then on the other side, I also know that, and because again, it's something I'm passionate about in other areas, not just Lorcana. Nowadays, it's definitely Lorcana the most because the second I saw it, I was like, this is amazing. I'm all in. But
Yeah.
the investing side, there are so many people there that's that other half of of the community that I'll get reached out to who will maybe ask me questions like, would you buy this card right now, that card right now, and understanding the different threads to pull on, like, should we be picking up Diablo right now, like we talked about? Well, you know,
Hmm.
it obviously like you. So again, this kind of tangents into why the game player is so important, why me following the game player, the deck builder, the DLCs. It's so important because that affects what I'm doing. Obviously, like I think before Vegas, DLC was, or I think before Vegas, Diablo was like $150, and now it's
Hmm.
200. And that is because there are people in the community that are seeing that top and they're like, that must be how you win. And that could be
Yep.
anybody from
Yep.
a competitive game player to someone like me. I'm not a competitive game player, but I'll tell you what, if I were, I'd want that card. So like, so that's going to spike the price. But that's where we have these conversations of like, you know, if you are a pure collector, right? And I'm going to give you my perspective. Like if you come to the channel, like I'll give you the perspective purely as a collector. It's probably not the right time to buy that card right now. And that's
Hmm.
just because like all things, right? The meta will shift, it will ebb, it will flow, and there will come a time. Just like almost every other card in any TCG in existence, there will come a time where that card just doesn't matter as much anymore. Price will drop, that's your card. But or that's your time for that card. But then also at the same time, you know, you get of course the Elsa question constantly, right? And that's a totally different conversation. Then I shift into, you know, understanding that look, it seems expensive now, but if this hobby works, if this works 5, 10 years from now, bargain. I don't care if you buy it now. I don't care if you buy it 2 weeks from now. If you bought it 6 months from now, I don't care. And it is interesting, like when, you know, because of course it's such a massive sum of money to almost everyone. You see it go from like 1,200 to 700 to like these are
Hmm.
massive jumps for for a piece of cardboard, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
but at the same time, and of course, we should be reacting to it and be emotional by it. But that's where I love kind of communicating to people who care, right? To the investor side who cares. Like, you know what? If you feel like you love the hobby and you want to be around for the long haul, even if you bought it at 12 and it's down to 7, don't worry. We're going to be okay. Like it's going to be just fine.
Yep.
First of all, you have something that you can love and keep forever. So that right there, you know, that's going to make you feel good about what you purchased. You can look at it and smile and feel like it's great. And also, let's have you and I, let's talk in 5 years and we'll see where that card, right? So
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
conversation from the Diablo, right? So and I that to me has always been so interesting in, you know, in just in general that I was like, I'm gonna try and bring those two things together, and I'm sure over time we'll evolve and do different things, but at the heart of it, yeah, like those are the things that I love, and so
Hmm.
let's make a channel about that. Like, why not?
Yep. Yep. Doing great, by the way. I appreciate the time that you spend on the content and really getting it out there. And like I
Oh,
said,
dude,
it's
absolutely.
it's kind of a little it's different than the stuff that I normally consume. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of a little refreshing every once in a while, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing on the gameplay side too, right? You have the people that do the hardcore deck building, DLC reviews. You have people that are a little bit more casual stuff like me. And then, you start moving into the other kinds of content like yours. And I'm sure there's room for all sorts of different kinds of things. You have the way more casual, like Rebecca that does the Instagram videos, and
Yep.
so
Yep.
you've got all sorts of stuff out there, and it's nice to have something else that's different to add to the list as well. So, yeah, I appreciate the content you put out. I'm
Absolutely, man.
curious. So you've kind of mentioned the family. I know
Yep.
that one of the things that can be one of the most difficult about creating content, especially if you have a family, is like finding the time and balancing the time. What kind of advice do you have for people that do have that kind of situation, and want to really, optimize things, I guess, to make it, work best?
Yeah. That's an awesome question. I think it'd be twofold. The first, I think we talked about, which is if you're going to do it, obviously everybody, I'm sure I mean, there's all, like we talked about, there's all different kinds of content out there. And especially in today's day and age, so mainstream, so common, like it is really kind, finding its stride. That the first thing I would say is truly, like, I think being yourself it helps make things a lot more comfortable, especially in the beginning, because you're going to
Hmm.
make mistakes. Like you're, I got to tell you, for anyone listening to this who thinks like, you want to start and you want to go for it, that is fantastic. Take it from me. I did everything possible to try to make sure. I was like, well, I'm not going to be that person. I'm not going to make those mistakes. I still made those mistakes. You're going to make those mistakes. You just are.
Yep.
You have to just
Yep.
go for it and learn. So and being yourself along the way, it at least that's one less thing you have to be stressed about, right? You
Yep.
can be like, you know what, I'm gonna do it and be myself, and hopefully that resonates and that comes through and people see that. The second thing I would say, because you mentioned like having a family and having like, it's so funny. Actually, I got asked this by a subscriber the other day, and I showed it to my wife. We both laughed, and it's a fair question, but of course, knowing our lives, like because we laugh because we know our lives. And he said,
Hmm.
he goes, "Is this your full time job?" And my wife and I looked, and we both looked at each other, and I told her, I said, I want to message this person back and say, oh, I wish, that'd be amazing. And hey, who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe
Yeah.
maybe one day, maybe we get there one day. That would be amazing. Like obviously that's the dream and that's the goal, but no, obviously you're going to have other things going on, right? And so the biggest thing I would say is, again, like, prepare for another corny line, but I'm telling you, it's the truth. If you start and your thought process is, it would be so awesome to make a lot of money on YouTube and have a lot of subscribers and a lot of views and stuff like that, don't get me wrong, you might have the talent to get there and do it. Like I'm rooting for you, but so much more of it that's important and so much more of it that's going to keep you going is focusing on the journey. Because if you don't care about the journey, like, so you're going to have days, for example, like I have them too, like where you're going to wake up and you're going to be like, oh, I'm tired, man. I don't want to record. Like I
Yeah.
don't want to do
We've
this. And
all
that's
been
okay.
there.
That's
Yeah.
going to happen. It is going to happen. But what gets you through it is the love that you have for it. It's the fact
Hmm.
that it's like, do I love the channel that we are building, right? I love it so much. I absolutely love it. And so even those times where I'm like, man, I really don't want to do this, I just say, like, don't worry, let's go do it. Let's try and zone in, have some fun, and then we'll tell you what, we'll be tired and grumpy afterwards, but like, go, give yourself that time to go and do that. But it's going to happen. And I'll tell you what, if you're focused, if constantly every single day, because you're so focused on what's next, you're thinking to yourself, oh, I gotta record, oh, I gotta edit, oh, I gotta respond to this, oh, I gotta do that. The more it happens, you almost have to take a step back and ask yourself, like, is this really what you want to do? Like, don't let it
Hmm.
take away something that's so, like, that you love, right? Because look, I mean, it's the last thing I want to think about. But if for whatever reason, like, the channel ended tomorrow, which would, I mean, I really hope that doesn't happen, but like, you take a step back and have the perspective of, I've got our family, got our home, we got
Hmm.
people we love, we're good, man. Like, you don't need it. Like, it's a want, not a need. So when you think about something that's a want, you have to tell yourself like there's going to be those times where it's going to be easy to be like, no, man, like I don't have to do this. Maybe we just don't do it. And truly, if there are those days that you're having that you're like, yeah, no, honestly, like it's a really tough day. Like I either have the worst, head cold ever, or something horrible happened, or what, like, don't worry, like then take that time. But when it starts happening over and over, just take that step back and just ask
Hmm.
yourself, like, just be real with yourself, right? Because truly, like, what's great with content creation is there's no finish line. Like, I mean, every day you can, I mean, there's no finish line until you decide. So the destination is going to be when you decide it to be. So enjoy the journey. I can tell you, like, when I start recording, I used to be like, okay, here we go. Like, I gotta make sure this is great. And what's so funny is, like, I can tell that would come through on screen, or at least because I'm my own worst critic. But
Hmm.
now when I turn it on, I'm kind of like, dude, we're just gonna have some fun and we're just gonna record this thing, man.
Yep.
And like,
Yep.
and it's so funny. That's when I felt like the content started getting a lot just more. I don't know. At least I thought it was getting better because I was like, look, I can tell I'm having fun, right? So
Hmm.
enjoy what you're doing because it's a hobby and it's meant to be fun. And yeah, you're gonna have those days, but just understand that it's something that you love, you know?
Yep. Yep. And it's always, it's sad to see because we saw, in the community, we saw a couple of creators a couple of months ago, I guess now, that kind of, took that step back and they said, look,
Yeah,
I enjoy this. I'm not enjoying it near, quite as much as I used to.
of
And
course.
it's hard for people that have kind of got invested in, in what they've been creating and and almost like think of them as friends. Some of the live shows,
Yeah.
you would go watch and like Jonty and Brandon B squared, when they
Yep.
were doing the
Absolutely.
Inkwell show.
He he was one of your first, right? He was one of your
Yeah, yeah,
first
yeah, yeah,
on the
Brandon,
show,
yeah,
B squared. Yeah. No,
yep. And
absolutely, dude.
and to have that kind of recurring thing to sit down and you got to feel like they're friends, just kind of hanging out and everything. But then to say, for them to stop and say, look, we love doing this. We love being a part of the community in this way, but it's not what we feel is right for us. And that is, I think as a content creator, like you were saying, I think that is one of the most key things you can do, to kind of stop and take a
Right.
step back and be like, am I still enjoying this? And is it what I want to do? Is it what I want to do with what I'm creating? Have I changed in where I want to go with my content? There's all sorts of things to consider. And if you just keep making, 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 you're not going to ever get to that point until it's burnout. And then that's even worse.
That's
Then
right.
you're like, well, now I don't want to do it anymore. you know, Instead
Yeah.
of like
And
sitting down and thinking about what it needs to be or what it looks like. Does it mean you go from, long form, hour-long videos to, short 10-minute somethings, that's a lot easier to squeeze into your schedule and make work. And then you get that fun back, right?
that's right. And so many times, I mean, I try to take careful steps with it mentally because I know I'm the kind of person who, like, it's not enough for me to throw the content out there and, like, whatever happens happens. And to your point, you know what it needs to be, and you will nurture it in the right way. It's yours. Like, so you will nurture it in the right way. Going into what I said earlier, where it's like I started it because I just wanted to have a community of people around me who I could, where we could be like-minded and collaborate and talk and things like that. It's also to the point where, and again, this isn't for everybody, but the way I always look at it, especially now where I'm like, this is bigger than just me. Like
Hmm.
there are people who, like, they're excited to tune in. Like, we'll do an episode every Sunday at, at a specific time zone time. And like I like, truly, in my mind, the way I look at it is like there are probably kids who are like, hey, let's get up, let's have some breakfast, and let's watch the guy who opens packs or something like that. And
Hmm.
it's like and again, it's like, obviously you need to do what's best for yourself, but so many times I'll be like, and those are the things that also get you through. Or, like, with, how, like my wife is my editor, so like we're a team and we do it together. And I'll, like, we'll be tired and, like, we'll be maybe even grumpy, and we'll say to each other, like, we have to keep, like, we want to go to bed, man. But it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
but those and it's not, it doesn't have to just be kids. I mean, I have people reach out to me all the time where it's like, great, that's, but like those people, they deserve that episode on that day. And obviously though, there's a balance with that too. You need to do what's best for you mentally. You need to make sure you're good. But once you have that box checked and you feel good about it, then my mind starts going towards like, you know what, like you deserve your episode every Sunday, Thursday, or whatever your like timing is, or two a week, or whatever you're doing, one a week. And you know what? I'm gonna give it to you. You deserve it. Like you joined, and you're supporting us. We're gonna give it right back to you. And
Yep.
yeah, I mean that. But again, that's where as you put more into it, and as you continue to feed it and grow, always make sure that you're focused on making sure that you're okay as well. And like for example, like you said with B squared and that, and I mean, if you think you need to take a step back, then it's the right decision because it's the decision for you,
Yeah.
and it's a decision that's going to make you feel best with, because that's what really matters, right? Like you mentioned, like that's a friend, right? And like I can tell you that if someone in my orbit was doing that as well, and they said I just need to take a step back, I might ask why, because I care about that person and I just want
Hmm.
to make sure I can do what I need to do to, just make sure, like, yeah, just like be there for them or whatever, like whatever you need. But then beyond that, it's kind of like you got it because that's what you need, right? And so
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
fine line that you walk with it. And like I said, everyone's different, right? Everyone's going to grow their content the way that they want to. And but no, I mean, obviously, the way from where we're growing and getting to, like, it's exciting to know that there's more and more people watching, and it's kind of like, wow, like that, because that what that means is like, because that's exciting. Like to me, I'm like, now I'm having more conversations. I get to talk to more people. There's
Yep.
more people in the Discord like showing me cards that they pulled, and I'm like, that is awesome. That is so freaking cool. Like
Yep.
I wish I was there. I wish that was my card. Like there's so much more of that going on, and yeah, and what's cool is that we are in a spot right now where that's the kind of thing right now that's feeding us and having us saying like, let's keep going, like let's keep
Hmm.
pushing, because
Yep.
it's a great thing.
Yeah. Well, and with the community growing all the time, I mean, just the general Lorcana community, you've seen uh, so much content explode over the last year. And I know there's going to be
So
even
much.
more, I mean, you look at a community, not probably a really good comparison, but a community like Magic that's been around for, decades at this point. And there
Forever.
is
Yeah.
a huge amount of content. Now, how many of those places were things that were started out early and are still sticking around? I don't know. There's probably a decent
Yeah.
number. Not huge, obviously. But but no, to see the explosion in the community, you have DLCs that sell out within minutes. It's just insane to see how many people want to be involved somehow in this game, either actually playing competitively or playing at their locals with a puppy deck, or some some random things like that, or just consuming content. There's a lot of people out there that they play with their families, or they play, with friends or whatever. It's tabletop kind of stuff, kitchen table.
Yeah.
Um, but they watch all the content they possibly can. More power to them. I have no idea how you manage to consume more than, like two or three shows worth of content each week, but I wish I could do the whole multitask thing where I could have it on and then do work, but that doesn't work with me. So,
No,
um,
I'm with you. I got to lock into one
yeah.
thing at a time.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, my kids can do the multitask thing. Now, how well they do it, I don't know, but that's a different story.
It's a good
Um,
skill to learn early on.
it is, yeah. But I really look forward to seeing what the content creation space looks like in another year. I know
I
we have
know.
a lot of things that have been going strong since even before the game came out, which is crazy to me. I have seen things where people are like, they make podcasts about certain games, like video games and stuff like that, because I used to be
Yeah.
more into video games, um, but yeah, you hear them talking about the game, but it's a game that's been released. It's amazing to me. We have like podcasts like Citizens of Lorcana, and even some of the early
Yep.
stuff from Brandon and everybody, where it was just like hints of that there even was a game. It wasn't even like, here's the rules, here's an example card. At the very beginning, it was like, there's going to be a Disney TCG. That was it. And they already started talking about it, which it just blows my mind. And then they started showing cards, and then they started, talking about the mechanics and everything. And then it's just escalated so much since then. And it's crazy to me. And that was one thing whenever I first started, I was like, I really dove in headfirst into the community, and I thought, you know what? I really enjoy just talking to people. I don't do, in-depth deck reviews, and I do amateur deck building of decks that don't turn out very well, but you know, but it's fun, and it's using principles based on the
It
content
is.
creators that I've watched. And so you
It
kind of get a
is.
feel for it without having to relearn all that experience. And
Right.
so I
And
think it builds up the community as a whole by having lots of different content creators building or producing lots of different kinds of content.
absolutely. It's funny the different types of content, and I do think to your point, we will continue to keep branching off based on the hobby. It's and obviously this is a pro Lorcana person speaking to another pro Lorcana person, but like obviously two Lorcana optimists talking to each other. But I mean, you'd be hard pressed to think that something Disney puts their their mind and their imagine and their stock into isn't going to work out in some way, shape, or form. So it will be incredible to see where that goes. But to your point, all the different types of content, like I think like there's something that I wish, like to your point of a community and wanting to just talk to these people, like I I wish I'll watch Lorcana Goons from a market perspective. I'll say to
Mhm.
myself like I wish I could just talk to those two guys and just talk about where their heads are at with the gameplay and collectability space because they have such a good marriage of of those two things. I'll watch Inkborn Heroes and I'll be like, dude, your guys' edits are ridiculous. Like and obviously they have so much other great stuff that they're doing, but I'll be like, I want
Right.
to pick their brains on stuff. And then I'll be like, if I want to listen to something where like I feel like 50% of it's going to go over my head because he's such a genius with it, like listen to Spessy talk about deck building and stuff like that. I'll be like,
Hmm.
dude, like
Hmm.
you're ridiculous. Like, and so all of that different stuff, like again, I mean, each one of those channels completely different
Yeah.
in what they're looking to achieve. And but at the same time, I would say like, and obviously so many more that I love to watch, but like I would say like when I flip on this creator versus that creator versus that creator, I'm gonna step into a space where I feel like I'm excited to watch this specific content right now. And these guys, right, like they do it so well. Let's like the next 10, 20, 30 minutes is gonna be great. Like, and
Yep.
that's like what I'm hoping that people will see with our channel, where it's like, you know what, I kind of want to just kick back and have some fun, man, and open some packs. Not saying that they're not having fun also, because they're having a ton of fun, but like where it's
Oh
like, you know
yeah.
what, let's rip some packs and see what we pull. Like, and let's talk about the investing side or whatever it might be. Like, honestly, that's kind of what inspired me to get back into it back in the day. I mean, creators in other spaces where I just wanted to flip it on and watch them just kind of hang out in whatever room they're in, and I wanted to be in there with them, And I was like, and I felt like I felt like I was in there with them, and and that's what made me say like, let's watch another. Oh, they're going to open this now. Let's do it. And that's the thing I'm most excited about with like Lorcana going forward, right? Like I'm sort of for myself, I need to make sure that I understand that I'm somewhat, I guess, handicapped by the idea that the game is so new and so early
Hmm.
on, right? Like if I say, hey, we're gonna open up the first chapter, of course, like that garners more attention than anything else. But can you imagine if a new LOB first edition box gets opened on YouTube or a new base set box gets opened on YouTube? I mean, you're talking about like people will pause, like it'll be like a TCG Super Bowl going on. Like people will pause and like it will be a holiday, right? So like, and obviously I think that we can get there, of course, but I also have to tell myself like, yeah, like I mean, one day I can't wait to get to a point where it's like we're gonna open Shimmering Skies, and it's gonna be like, oh wow, he's opening that. That ain't cheap.
Hmm.
That's I mean
Yeah.
that you don't see those at Target anymore. You don't see those at Walmart anymore. That's out of print, and he's gonna open that. So that's something that I'm super excited for because again, that's what that was my sort of hook and like love into like, man, that's just so fun. Let's kick back, relax, and just watch it together.
Nice. Nice. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. I think we could probably ramble on about content creation and everything for another hour
Hours.
if we let it. Yeah, pretty much. Yep. So thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me. I've had a great time talking with you. Like I said, I always love to have different perspectives on the same, we both love the game. We both love, everything about it. It's just, like I said, two sides of the same coin, So, um, so I do want to finish with three questions. I have changed them slightly given the
Oh
target
man,
of our conversation. So
I'm not
first
ready for
off,
something like that.
no, well, I gave you the questions.
I know, I
Um,
know, I know, I know.
all right.
Hit me.
So,
What do you got?
what is your favorite card in your collection right now?
Oh, easy one. It is now. I will elaborate because I'm gonna give the answer, and everyone's gonna go, "Pfft, okay, that's no fun." It is an Elsa, Spirit of Winter, Enchanted,
Hmm.
but I have two of them. One of them is the raw version, and one of them is a PSA 10. The raw version is my favorite card because of everything
Okay.
that we've talked about today. So I can tell you the day. I can tell you what we were doing on that day. It was a Saturday. We were watching Elemental, Pixar, right?
Nice.
And it was like mid-afternoon, and my wife comes up to me and she fans a bunch of first chapter packs and she goes, "You pick two, I'll pick two, and we're gonna open." I'm like, "That sounds absolutely wonderful." And it was in one of mine. And that was also the first Enchanted that I ever pulled. And
Nice.
that moment is quite literally my favorite collecting moment in my life. And I and to kind of have everything that we talked about today come full circle. If we ever get to a point again, like it's not going to happen. Let's not talk like this. But if I had to sell everything in my collection besides one card, that will not be sold ever. I will sell the PSA 10 long before. The PSA 10 is the other side of what I love. I think it's a good
Hmm.
investment. I love talking about it. I do look at it and smile. But when I look at that raw version that I have, I think about my wife, myself, that day, and that memory. And that will never, and I will always have that. I'll have that forever. And that is what is so wonderful about
Nice. Nice. That's awesome. Okay, second question. Favorite Disney movie and why?
it. Ooh. Well, okay. I'm gonna give two. I because I have to, because one of them
It's
is I
allowed.
I will say it's thank you. I appreciate you. I need some rules bent here. I will say the so I'm a big, if you watch the channel, you'll see the book in the background. I'm a massive Marvel fan. That is a
Mhm.
whole, we could do a whole hour on that with Marvel and Lorcana and how that might someday happen if it ever does. But I do love the Avengers. I love Iron Man. That would be amazing. Like an Iron Man Enchanted is like my dream come true in the future, if that could ever happen. But taking that out and sticking more to like our world right now, it's the Lion King. That was
Nice.
the earliest parts of nostalgia that I can ever give you watching that movie. And even when I watch it back, I think like those feelings of like when you were younger and life was simpler and things like that, that movie is what hits all of the sweetest notes for me. So it's
Hmm.
absolutely Lion King.
Nice. Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I don't know if it's just that it was at that time that a lot of the people that I talked to, that was kind of their movie. Or if it's just like a really good testament to the movie itself, which I think it's kind of a
Yeah.
mix of the two, honestly. But there's a lot of people that say Lion King when I ask that question. And I mean, I totally agree. It's an amazing movie. I probably watched it at least 100 times when I was a kid too, and some since then even. So, but
Well, you think about the you
it's
think about the
interesting.
you think about the music in it, how it makes you
Hmm.
feel, and then bringing it into Lorcana, how they have songs in Lorcana,
Yep.
and how
Yep.
they want to weave that in. That is such secret sauce in this TCG. Like it is such secret sauce. Like that is like that is such a special component of what they're doing. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just I'm song enchanted, singing songs like as a mechanic, like unbelievable, absolutely
Yep.
unbelievable. So
Yep.
no, I totally agree, man.
Yep. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall when it clicked for them to say, "Oh no, we're not doing like spells, we're doing songs." And I mean,
Songs.
I could just see everybody around the table go, "Oh my God, why didn't we think about that?" You know?
This is going to be the greatest. This is going to be the
Yeah.
greatest trading card game ever.
It's yeah, exactly. Exactly. Uh, all right. Well, hey, tell everybody where they can find you and your content.
Absolutely. Digital Inkwell is where you can find me. My name is Digital Ink, but there's others of those out there, as you can imagine. So if you go at
Mhm.
Digital Inkwell, you'll find me, and then my Discord would be at the top description. And come join us, come hang out with us. Again, just like the channel, it's a safe space where we're just honestly we're just hanging out, having fun, and it's something I'm on every single day because what I've realized with Discord is like I mean, I told the people, on our channel, like the community, our community, like I'm kind of a rookie when it comes to that. I've never really like been in Discord, but then it kind of clicked where I was like, wait a second, that's going to be the best possible way to do what I want to do, which is just to hang out with people and interact. You don't have to just make a video to go and to go and communicate with people in the comments. You can have like a space to do that. So Digital Inkwell on YouTube, Discord's in there. Come hang out with us.
Nice, nice. And of course, I'll have all the links down in the notes, so no worries on having to search it if you can just find it really easily. So, all right, man. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me again. I really appreciate it. I know it's not hard to sit down and talk about what's your passion. So, but yeah, thank you so much.
I appreciate you, Chris, and keep doing what you're doing. This is awesome content, and it's a special thing you're doing, connecting people on your channel. So I really appreciate you giving me the invite.
No, well, thank you. I appreciate you being here. And yeah, I'll see you around the community.
I'm in. I'll see you.
Thanks for joining us on today's episode. If you liked what you heard, make sure to subscribe and rate or like us on your platform of choice. If you'd like to reach out to the show, you can email us at lorcanachats@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter or X at LorcanaChats, the podcast at podcast.lorcanachats.com, or just lorcanachats.com. We love feedback on the show, and let us know if there's anyone you'd like to hear from in the Lorcana community. See you next time.